Hi Stoney fam, and welcome back to another episode of TokeTalks with Tia. So this is now episode 32, guys. Thank you guys again for listening. I appreciate you guys all so much, especially, to my fans that have been a part of my journey, I guess you would say, into this community. It really does matter and mean a lot to me that some of the same people that have been following me for years now are still listening to me and even listening to my podcast. So thank you guys. Special shout out to you guys. So for this episode, I kind of want to just mainly talk about that and talk about my experience and journey, I guess you would call it, into the stoner community and just online in general and stuff like that, and specifically with my Tumblr. So I made this account, I want to say 2010, 2011. I don't exactly remember what month it was, but it was around that time, and my blog has gone through many different phases. In the beginning, though, when I first made it, it was nothing to do with cannabis at all. It was not at all anything to do with cannabis. It was a part of, it still is the same. I do post personal content on there, but it was kind of mostly based on that and just whatever I found interesting, kind of, and just a lot of different models and pretty shit that I found that I thought I would share. It was very basic, honestly. I did not like the vibe that I had for the first few years even of my blog, and it didn't take off for a very long time. It was not popular at all. Not until I had changed my name. So it used to be Drop Dead Gorgeous with a Q, and then I changed that to Stoner Barbie 420. And that is when I officially kind of got into the stoner community and found what that was like on the internet, and was really heavily getting into smoking also. So that was all kind of around the same time. I just started smoking a lot and was really interested in learning more about it and being more connected with people on the internet, because the community that I live in, not so many people were supportive about it at the time. And I was really kind of, I don't know exactly how to word it, but it was frowned upon where I lived, and people judged me a lot. Which is funny now that the roles have reversed, and now it's not frowned upon where I live, which is cool. I'm glad, because it was a pain in the ass growing up and having to hide it, and I didn't hide it for very long, because I was very proud of it, and I thought that it was stupid that I even had to hide it, but I mostly had it from my family for a little while, because it was just easier to deal with than them judge me and constantly berate me. But over time, I just didn't care anymore, and I was very avid and advocating for it, and I lost quite a bit of friends. They weren't really my friends anyway, if they're just gonna up and leave me because I smoke pot. But yeah, I lost a lot of people being my friends, and even people's, I was still in high school, still in school at the time, so even before that, in middle school when I'd started, so people's parents were finding out my reputation and that I smoked and stuff like that, and it actually was, not only were people choosing to not be my friend, but their parents were making them not hang out with me or not allow them over my house and stuff like that. So it was really just I felt like an outcast, a huge outcast. But I was super grateful, though, that I had my group of friends, that we all had pretty much the same interests. They all ended up smoking later on with me, too. But I was pretty much the only one out of my friend group to be smoking, besides one of my other friends that introduced me to it in the first place, which was my best friend at the time. But we were only the two people out of all my friends that smoked. And then once my friend had moved away, it was just me. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, everybody was kind of just curious about it, and all my friends, my friend group basically, were smoking. But we were still the outcasts of the school, because nobody else really, if they did smoke, they lied about it. And I was mostly, growing up, I went to school around a lot of preppy, rich, snobby people. And they were very much against my whole persona and what I got going on. And they definitely did not like that I smoked and that I was proud of it. Funny enough, actually, to back that up, I was in high school, and I think this was freshman or sophomore year. I can't remember. Actually, no, might have been even before this. It was in maybe 8th grade. So it was around that time frame. I can't remember. My brain's kind of fuzzy when it comes to remembering things, but time frames and stuff like that, I'm terrible at remembering. It could be 2 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, and then somehow I'll forget. But anyway, I'm in school, and it's just a regular day, whatever. I'm not happy about being there, but I'm there, and I'm going to my classes. And I get pulled into the office. I get called in the intercom. I go to the office, and this was after lunchtime. So it was a couple of hours left of school. Not too much left of the day. They didn't bring me in the morning, but I don't understand why, but whatever. I go into the office, and they pull up my Instagram posts of, me smoking and stuff like that. And I'm very smart. I've always been smart, but back then I was really smart, too. And immediately as they brought it up, I said, what does this have to do with school? none of these posts were made while I was in school. And you cannot prove from a picture that that's actually cannabis. I said, no, that's not actually cannabis. I lied. That's, catnip or whatever I made up. I can't remember what I said. I think I actually did say catnip. But, like, you can't prove. They didn't have enough proof to back up what they were saying. And they can't do anything about what I do outside of school. I believe that they reported it to, like, DCF or something like that. And there was issues with my parents. But, like, they can't do anything about it on school grounds. They searched me. I didn't have anything on me. And this was not the first time that my school had pulled some shit like this. Years later, when I was in high school, this was in high school, somebody reported to the principal or whoever, a teacher, and they told the principal that me and my best friend at the time and one of our other friends had smoked before school and went to school, which was not the case. We didn't smoke that day. We'd smoked the night before. But anyway, we're at school, and I have nothing, again, in my backpack, nothing on me. And they accuse me of being high in school. And I'm not. I keep denying it, and I start crying because I'd already been in trouble. Actually, that past year, I'd gotten in quite a lot of trouble in school, which I never really gotten in trouble. I think I talked a little bit about that before on one of my other episodes. I think the Let's Go Back in Time one. But regardless, I'll tell you guys a little bit more about it. And if I already talked about it, stay tuned and listen to more about it, I guess. Or you can fast forward to me talking about something else. But me and my friend and my other friend, we'd all been brought in at different times, and none of us had admitted to smoking because we didn't. And none of us had anything on us. But for some weird reason, we all got in trouble for something we didn't even do, and there was no proof of it because we had nothing on us, not a lighter, nothing. But I got suspended, and we all got suspended, actually. But I know that I got suspended for 9 days, and I had to take a drug test. My friends had to take 3 drug tests. I only had to do 1. But it was really ridiculous. I was honestly pissed. I was mad that my mom didn't do enough to defend me. And this is not the first time, guys, that I've had many issues with this school. That school was awful to me growing up. And just to people with mental illness in general, they're very ignorant. And I'm very glad that I'm well older now, that I'm not in high school anymore, or in school in general. Because people can be fucking mean. And not even just the kids, like you would think, like their fellow classmates. It can also even be like the teachers. And I'll give you guys one little story about that, because I plan on talking about this specific subject in a whole other episode, because it's probably going to take a lot longer to talk about. But this one story I can think of that comes to mind is I'm in high school, and this was I'd just gotten back, actually, because I had just dropped out of high school. I was very sick, mentally and physically, and I was out of school for months. And I'd missed so much work that I had to take an N grade, which an N grade is when you miss too much classes that your grades automatically go to Fs. So I had A's and B's, but because I wasn't there enough, they gave me Fs. And my mom was not communicating with the school and giving them the proper doctor's notes. So I literally just looked like I was just skipping school. And my mom was not communicating with the school, did not care enough to tell them what was actually going on with me. Because if they did, then they'd probably look more into it and want to know what was going on at home, which a lot of bad shit was going on at home. So there was just a lot going on. And to take care of my sister and myself, I just couldn't do it. I couldn't go to school. But I finally realized I needed to finish this. I've been working my whole life. I love school. I love my friends. I didn't want to be at home anymore. And it was a lot harder for me to stay at home with my mother's husband when he'd come home and have his fits and stuff. It'd just be easier to be at school. But it was harder when honestly, I was just so sick physically that was the biggest thing that kept me back from going to school. I was about 67 pounds and almost on a feeding tube and in and out of hospitals. So I was just not doing well. But I finally was feeling well enough and mentally well enough, because I had some issues with my bipolar and depression. This was the first time I'd actually tried to commit suicide. So this was years ago. But I was well out of the hospital, well fine, and it had been months after this. So I go to school, and I'm just finally trying to come back together. But it's hard because I already knew that I wasn't going to be graduating with my class, and that I was going to have to stay back and take extra classes with people that were younger than me. And the people that were younger than me, some of them I actually knew, and it was just really embarrassing. It felt very uncomfortable. I felt below myself. And I didn't think I deserved it because I was very smart, and it wasn't really entirely my fault that I didn't go to school. But I was taking, responsibility, and I had to fix what I'd done. So I was trying to fix it and going to school, and I'm in science class, and I already had issues with this teacher. She was just awful to me and would single me out constantly. And apparently, over time, I've talked to other people that had had her as a teacher, even not people that were in my class, but years before me and after, have all said pretty much the same thing. She's just a mean, controlling, evil woman and gets off on making people feel bad because she hates her life so much. So, shout out to you. But this day in particular, we're in class, and they're all talking. She's talking to the class about credits that we need to graduate. And this already is not my science class. This is a class with a bunch of kids that I didn't grow up with. Like, I'm below. This is a class that I'm not supposed to really even be in, and I'm retaking it again. So I was very frustrated. And this whole time, this woman never... I confided in her a few times about what was going on at home. And I confided in multiple teachers, hoping that it would help. And in guidance counselors, and, even begged them to do anything, if they could try to help in any way. And nothing was ever done. So I kind of just felt hopeless. And I'm in class, and all of a sudden, like I said, she was talking about college credits. She looks at me and points out at me in front of the entire class and says, "Oh, wait, never mind, Tia. You don't need to listen to this because you're not graduating this year." Nobody else even knew, because I hadn't told anybody that I wasn't going to be graduating entirely. They thought that I was just, going to have to take an extra class or something. I was completely staying back the entire year. So I was devastated. I was hurt. I looked at her and told her to go fuck herself. And then I took all my stuff and I left, and I did not come back. And that was when I left. And I got my GED shortly after. Not too shortly after, because I had a lot of other stuff going on. But I did it. I sat there and looked into this giant book, and I studied every single fucking day for months and months until I passed all these tests. With flying colors, too. Math one, not so much, but I did pass it. Not with flying colors, but I 100% passed it. And I'm very proud of myself, because yes, some people might look down on me and think, down on people in general that have their GEDs or just drop out, but they don't understand the dynamic and what made them drop out and why. My mom let me drop out when I was 16 years old, so it wasn't like I really had that much of a choice with what was going on in my life. And there's a lot of other people that are the same thing. Like, it's not automatically, oh, we're just lazy, we don't want to go to school. That's not the case. So, but anyway, that I talked a little bit more about that than I meant to. So I'm sorry, guys. I want to keep this on a lighter note. So it triggered a memory that I thought of, and I just thought I'd share with you guys, because school can be really fucking traumatic for people, and sometimes people don't understand that, like, normal everyday places that should be considered normal, I mean, yeah, they can be shitty, but not be toxic. Sometimes they can be, like workplace, home life, especially, or even school. So, yeah, I just wanted to touch on that topic. But going back to my Tumblr journey, so we're going to talk about that stuff, guys. So, it's like 2014, 2015 or so, and I was Stoner Barbie 420 for a couple years, and I just started getting a little bit of a following, but I wasn't really big yet. I had about, I think, 1,000 something. I really wasn't big. And I started to find a big liking in taking pictures of cannabis and pictures of me smoking it, and just overall, like, potography, I like to call it, because it kind of is. It's photography specifically for pot. Speaking of pot, I have a bong in front of me, so I would like to take a bong rip real quick with you guys. So I'm going to take a hit before I continue talking. Now, I'm not going to be so good at talking about exactly what year this happened, this year this happened. Also, I just finished that bong pack. It was really good, guys. But I will say, before I finish talking, that bong pack just, like, really put me on my ass, because now I'm like, what was I talking about? But, yeah, back to what I was talking about. So, around that time, I just started dating my first real long-time boyfriend also. We were together for about 2.5 years, too. I don't even know how, when I try to think back to any memory of our relationship at all. He was very lacking in personality and boring. Very, very boring. And the end of our relationship, I did not see that coming at all. So, it showed me really what not to do and who not to be with in a relationship. But for the most part, he was pretty good to me for the first, year or so. I think he, overall he didn't stand up for me very much, or really take a care in what I was doing with my life. And by that, I mean, he never motivated me to do any better with my life. He kind of would just use me to get what he wanted. But whatever, that's life, guys. We kind of have to go through that. We have to experience different types of relationships. And I think after